Lenovo presents Smarter India, Thinking Beyond the Classroom, in association with CNBC TV 18.
You didn't know it, but you were always a teacher. Yes, you were a homemaker, an office goer, a student. You never taught a day in your life until you did. And then you changed a life forever. Thank you, teacher, for making children read, write, and solve problems, even when you faced your own. Thank you, teacher, for teaching yourself how to use the internet so you could teach one more student online. Thank you, teacher. You didn't make money. You didn't get any fame. You didn't know it, teacher, but you made all the difference. So we'd like to thank you all the same.
Hello and welcome to Lenovo presents Smarter India, Thinking Beyond the Classroom in association with CNBC TV 18. Now, with the COVID-19 outbreak having affected people and businesses from all walks of life, technology has played a pivotal role in enabling business continuity and ensuring that organizations transform and adapt to this new normal. Much like others, the education sector too has been impacted adversely with the pandemic's onset, with the closure of schools and other education systems impacting approximately 1.6 billion students in more than 190 countries. So over the course of today's event, we aim to unravel and understand how education experts, industry leaders, and government agencies are looking to leverage technology to create future learning models which are not only engaging but also adaptive and scalable to reach a larger population across the country. To help set some context a little further, I would now like to welcome Rahul Agarwal, CEO and MD, Lenovo India, to deliver this keynote on decoding the new learning paradigm for our viewers.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the Smarter India Education Summit. My name is Rahul Agarwal and I work as the MD and CEO of Lenovo India. I know we are all trying to adjust to the new reality, but we must also spare a thought on the post-pandemic world and how we can thrive in it. Now, the future of the nation, as they say, depends on the education. And for a developing country like India, even more so. Which is why we believe that we must spend a lot more thought on how this COVID pandemic could affect us and what can we do about it. Without a doubt, technology has a role to play in it. And as a technology leader, we thought it would be very appropriate to get the key stakeholders on this burning subject and do some brainstorming on it. Now we have to remember that we were already battling with quite a few things in this space. Shortage of teachers, quality of education, quality of teachers, and absence of both teachers and students from schools were some of the things that we were still trying to work around. Now with the physical schools closed, we've got big issues. As per the studies that have been done, at least 30% of the teachers are not equipped to teach online. And less than 30% of the students have any kind of device. And when it comes to a large device, the number falls to a low single digit. So clearly we see quite a few issues that we need to think about. But in summary, there are three things that I can talk about. First is the digital divide. It's the privileged and the very few students who have got access to quality education. They go to good schools and they have access to both internet and devices. This divide actually goes up when you do the urban and rural divide. And the situation in the rural India and especially the remote places is quite worrisome. Secondly, when we talk about the institutes being ready to teach online, we again see a huge shortage. Schools and colleges to a large extent have never thought about it, and they just don't know how to convert a brick mortar school into a digital online school. Third, and this will come later, that even if the schools are able to start providing education, how do we make this education more effective? How do we make sure that the students stay engaged? And how do we make up for the lack of one-on-one and physical interaction between students and teachers? We at Lenovo are not just trying to bring the key stakeholders for the subject, we're also trying to walk the talk. For example, very recently, in partnership with eVidyaloka, we launched an online education platform called Smarter Ed. What this platform does is it brings together needy students and willing people who want to teach on subject of their interest and of their knowledge. This platform is totally free of cost. It's available in multiple languages, and it uses and studies the teaching style of teachers and the learning style of students to give them a perfect match. Today as I talk, there are thousands of students and thousands of teachers adding value to each other every single day. Like any responsible corporate citizen, we're also trying to tweak our CSR efforts to play a responsible role in this pandemic. Our partners have been retraining their staff, have been reinventing their operating model to reach out to the beneficiaries. For example, one of our partners had to train 40,000 students to make them employment ready, and without the physical touch, they had to reinvent the model. Some of our other partners, Meghshala and Agastya, have also been redirecting their efforts to provide education to needy students by using our technology, including our Moto phone devices. Education for a complex country like India is not an easy solution. We hope that the stakeholders that we brought today, from the government, from the academia, and the experts, will be able to brainstorm well and will bring us some new insights and some fresh ideas. It's my honor now to introduce a very special guest, Mr. Amitabh Kant, who is the CEO of Niti Aayog. And he would be talking about the government's vision of transforming the education system in India.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me for CNBC's TV 18 Smarter India. The National Education Policy 2020 comes a staggering 34 years after it was last revised. Timely and progressive, it marks a monumental milestone in the country's education system. The new education policy will drive change in alignment with the system's need to focus holistically on the most critical tenets of access, equity, infrastructure, learning outcomes, governance, and most critically, our key focus has to be, again and again, I'll say, learning outcomes. The policy carries tremendous potential to make India a knowledge superpower by equipping its students with the necessary skills through improved school and higher education programs. From blurring the lines between academic streams to opening up higher education institutions to the world, NEP 2020 envisions widespread inclusion of students with the addition of 3.5 crore new seats. The closure of education institutions in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the importance of online learning to ensure learning never stops. This in turn has also brought to fore the need to bridge the digital divide so that the benefits of online learning can reach every segment of the student community. The creation of the National Education Technology Forum to coordinate digital infrastructure, Content and capacity building will be a milestone in making education accessible even in the most remote areas. With e-courses that will be developed in 8 regional languages, the push towards digital will not only personalize learning but also help strengthen creative thinking and problem-solving skills. And these are really imperative for the future workforce. Further highlighting the need for e-learning, NEP 2020 aims to introduce an academic bank of credit. Students who have taken a break from their undergraduate courses and wish to return can earn their degrees without missing the credits earned in the previous session. Bringing teachers to the forefront, NEP 2020 endeavors to enhance the professional standards among teachers. Under the policy, a National Education Technology Forum will be created to provide a platform for the exchange of ideas on the use of technology for enhanced learning. NEP 2020 is a welcome step in the right direction, signaling the new normal in education with its pivotal focus on critical thinking, experiential learning, interactive classrooms, integrated pedagogy, and competency-based education. Inclusive digital education features as a cross-cutting component through all reform areas, powering India's journey towards the 4th Industrial Revolution. It's truly a multifaceted policy made in India, by India, and for Indians. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that was Amitabh Kant right there taking us through some of the broad highlights of the recently announced National Education Policy. We thank you for taking our time today for joining us on this forum. Now, experts believe that new age learning using technology encourages students to explore, to experiment, and to question instead of just memorizing content. It also incorporates different forms of learning to make academics more interesting for students and empower them to learn according to their learning capabilities, style, and most importantly, their own pace. Up next, we have Ashish Dhawan, founder, Central Square Foundation, joining us to share his insights on how we must now focus on building using technology to create engaging learning environments that are not only effective but also cost efficient to be able to help students from all walks of life across varied geographies.
Thank you everyone for attending the Smarter India Beyond the Classroom conference event. It's very exciting to be here at this moment. I think, as all of you know, we're here to discuss education technology. There's a lot of work that's been done on edtech over the past couple of decades. And to be honest, it's been a mixed bag. But there was a ray of hope in the last 4 or 5 years. There were products starting to emerge that were more interesting. At the same time, parents had devices in their homes. And naturally, kids were getting exposed to a wider world beyond their classroom. In schools, some elite private schools have access to hardware and digital, but it really doesn't percolate beyond that in private schools in particular. And then came COVID. Obviously a very, very difficult period for the world, but from an education technology perspective, it was the only solution. There may have been a few products that had evidence that they were working prior to COVID, but when COVID hit, we had no choice. We had to rely on education technology. And really there are 2 forms. One is synchronous. So teachers in particularly the elite schools, they switched to teaching over Zoom or Google. And essentially it was the equivalent of running a live classroom, but doing it over Zoom. And clearly I think what we've seen in the summer is teachers have become better trained. They're now used to using the medium. Students also know how to engage. Parents have become a little bit more accepting. Obviously, they prefer the physical school setting, but they're more accepting than they were back in April. And so there have been a bunch of challenges with COVID. I think one challenge is you can't go to school. So there's no B2B, no physical contact. A second challenge is the education technology perpetuates inequity. Those who are less fortunate don't get access to synchronous teaching because they don't have the kind of bandwidth. So it's all asynchronous. Teacher will send you a WhatsApp message, text message, maybe you come to school and pick up some printed material, and work with your children at home. And obviously those parents are not as well educated, so they can't support their children in the same way that upper class households have been able to support their children through COVID. So inequity has increased. We've also learned that teachers really have struggled. They were not prepared, they were not trained, they were not ready. There were real issues around safety for children. I think a lot of parents, schools, teachers were worried about cyberbullying, identity theft, someone invading or Zoom bombing the classroom, all kinds of concerns around safety because we're dealing with children here. So a lot of things didn't go so well. But I do want to tell you that a number of things actually went off quite well in terms of the future. What happened well is that people were forced to use this technology. So on the demand side, we started to see an unlocking of demand. For the first time, I think parents realized that they were now able to be connected with the teacher. They were able to access some digital learning on the phone, either distributed by the teacher or of their own accord. Many state governments actually pulled together programs which were holistic, TV, radio, and using the mobile phone. So I think the customers started engaging with the digital medium, the mobile phone, thinking of education as a use case, which earlier they hadn't thought of before, that my child actually may be able to learn off the phone. I think another big positive is teachers got connected with parents. If you look in schools, particularly government schools, teachers didn't even have the phone numbers of parents. Now they've got WhatsApp groups, they're pinging them on a daily basis. There's a channel that's gotten created between teachers and parents. On the teacher side, they've gotten more comfortable with the medium in terms of using it, in terms of accepting it as a tool for personal development as well. And then you've got communities of teachers that have gotten created. Earlier, teaching was a very isolated profession. You're in your classroom, you're teaching. Now you're sitting at home, you're isolated, but you are often connected with other teachers. We also realized a bunch of challenges with content. Content that works for the next billion, most of India, is really video-based and vernacular. And we don't have enough of it. And I think what this COVID moment has in a sense, stimulated that supply side, the need for more of that. So that's the COVID period. I think there's a bunch of opportunities. I actually call it India's Sputnik moment for edtech. This is that moment when things will really take off. And you've seen it with the for-profit platforms. I mean, White Hat and Byju's and Vedantu, all these companies serving India One, which is the top 10% of India, have really taken off. So I think we really now, whilst it's exciting that people are now used to this, we need to think about the way forward. So my vision is that firstly, for teachers, so let's look at it from a teacher's perspective, I would like to think of a teacher in the next couple of years having access to digital resources on her phone so that before she goes into the physical classroom, she can watch a video, read a little bit of text, basically 10 minutes of prep that allows her to perform better in the classroom. I'd like her to have a lesson plan on her smartphone so that when she's in the classroom, she can actually refer to that lesson plan and actually structure her classroom in terms of what she does. I'd like her to have resources available for lesson delivery in the classroom, whether it's through a projector, whether it's eventually 10 years from now, it may be AR, VR, but the teacher should have access to resources that she can leverage for lesson delivery. I'd like to have the teacher use technology for homework. Why assign work to a child that they'll do in written form and the teacher then needs to grade it? Eventually, homework should be done in digital form. And then it's much easier for a machine to help the teacher in assessing it. Multiple choice, obviously, the machine can assess directly. And you can gamify it as well. You can gamify homework. Look at what Kahoot has done. It's converted homework into a quiz. And all of a sudden, children are more interested. But we need to develop all of this so that we have this 21st century teacher who now is better enabled and can actually focus more of her time on building that human connection with students. Let's look at it from the student's perspective. I think from the student's perspective, obviously the student can use edtech in school or at home, the B2B or the B2C use case. I think in school, it'll still take some time. Obviously, there are some upper income schools that have computer labs, children can go in there. And I think what I would recommend in the B2B setting is we should almost block like 2 periods a week on the machine Firstly for math, because we know math works better, and let children do practice on the devices. The advantage of this is it's personalized and adaptive. I think what's very important to enable this is the supply side. We need content that's in the vernacular. It's missing today. So more content. As I said, the market right now is for India 1, so it's mostly in English. We need it in all our Indian languages. We need it contextualized for the learner. We can't just take a product that's in English for India 1 and translate it and say an India 3 user can use it today. It needs to be contextualized. It also needs to be more video-based. We need to recognize that reading is a problem. Often the parents also can't read. And so it needs to be more video-based. It needs to obviously be gamified. So there's a real opportunity, I think, to develop very interesting products. And I would hope that apart from not-for-profits doing it and making it available for free for India 3, because these people can't really afford to pay much for this, unlike India 1, that a lot of the India 1 companies actually say, I will develop a much cheaper version. So if it's 20,000 rupees a year or 10,000 rupees a year for India 1, I can do it at 1,000 rupees a year or 500 rupees a year for India 3. So I think new models have to be developed for India 3, which is the 75% of the population. And finally, from a parent's perspective, I think the interesting thing with edtech, it's now finally a way to pull them in, to engage them. You know, if you look at India 3, the parent is not as well educated, the parent is busy in his or her job, often doesn't spend time with the child on his or her education. And this is now an opportunity for the parent to get connected either through the teacher or by downloading apps or YouTube content and actually sit with the child and engage the child. We just backed a couple of orgs, one called Rocket Learn, another one called Sarthi, that have been working on this parent use case. And they're using WhatsApp to communicate with the parent daily, send them content, get the child to do an activity or a worksheet. And we're seeing actually 85% response rates from the lowest income households. We developed an app called Top Parent, and we're finding parents are really engaging with these apps because they want to discover good learning apps for their children. So my hope would be that someday edtech doesn't become a tool for greater inequity or to increase the digital divide, but actually a way to lift the bottom so that all our children can start reading with fluency. So I think edtech holds a lot of promise, but it's a double-edged sword. If not used well, it's going to increase inequity, and it potentially could lead to no learning outcome, may just be a distraction. If used well, it could bridge the divide and could actually help lift all boats, and particularly those who are at the bottom of the pyramid. And finally, I'd like to close by saying is, whilst we're so bullish on edtech, let's not forget the human element in all of this, which is important. The teachers, the parents. At the end of the day, children are still going to go to school post-COVID. The tech is not a replacement for school. It's an add-on to school. So HI is more important than AI. You know, AI's job is to help human intelligence, human emotion, human connection. And my only hope is we will make the teacher a better teacher and the parent a better parent and give the student a better chance. Thank you very much.
All right, Ashish, some great insights right there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Up next, we have Richard Henderson, Director Global Education Solutions at Lenovo, to take us through some of the innovative tools that the company is providing through its portfolio of software solutions to enable better distant and hybrid learning in the future and also facilitate last-mile education. Listen in.
Hi, and welcome to the Smarter India broadcast on education and how we can improve education going forward in this unusual time, but also exciting time. I'm Rich Henderson, the Director of Global Education Solutions at Lenovo. And my team is looking at how across the world we can focus on this new education and how to have a smarter way forward in delivering the best education possible to students. My team is made up of former educators, and we look at the new emerging technologies that are coming into the market and how we can bring those into the classrooms of teachers and students around the world. Now, the situation that we're dealing with now is so challenging and unusual. At the height of the pandemic, we had 92% of the world's schools closed. That impacts 1.6 billion students. And at that time, over 190 countries had countrywide closures and schools just not in session or trying to do what we called crisis remote learning. And that crisis remote learning was really challenging. And I think a lot of educators would say not very effective. So what we've started working on at Lenovo is this idea of how we can have a smarter way forward in this education and bring to you a complete solution for driving innovative ways to learn with emerging technologies in a way that allows both teachers, their students, parents, administrators to all be connected to this new normal of learning. So this smarter way forward has a couple of really interesting dynamics, and it starts with the ability to build connections with teachers, connections with students to other students, and that's done through a remote section of learning. So if you think about the scenario that we're entering into right now, you have teachers that are either teaching from home fully or they're teaching from a classroom setting. And their students could be in a classroom or they could be learning remotely. And so now you have this really big mix of teachers in the classroom, students in the classroom, teachers remote, students remote, or kind of all remote. And building those connections across the classroom for students to connect is really important. Second is collaboration. And how do you help students learn from their peers, learn from their teachers, be connected to adult mentors? We know that for students to grow and learn, they need access to their peers. They need to be able to learn from each other's ideas, to challenge each other's, to debate, to learn from their mentors. And then lastly, it's how do we continue to adapt? So we know that this pandemic is going to be a longer period of time before we have full recovery. So how do we continue to adapt our teaching and learning in order to be successful long-term? Well, we believe that there are three things that we need to plan for. And that is a traditional learning environment where students are inside of a classroom and they are going to school just like normal. The teacher is there, students make their way to school and they're learning in a traditional classroom environment. And we know that will happen in some classrooms around the world. Secondly is a hybrid model. And that means that there are some students in a classroom, there are some students remote. And I know in some cases around the world, you have students that will be in class for a week, and then they'll take 2 weeks off and they'll learn remotely for 2 weeks. And then they'll come back into a traditional classroom for a week. So we have this really interesting hybrid model where you're going to have this real flexibility and need to adapt to students coming in and out of the classroom, and how do you sanitize and protect the students as they come into a school setting. And then finally, it's the full virtual learning. It's students that are fully remote and they're not coming into a classroom setting at all. Teachers are also fully remote. And so now you need tools. You actually need more technology to have distance learning and remote learning because everyone needs that device. Everyone needs access to connect in, to be able to collaborate and learn and interact with their peers. So these three areas of traditional learning, remote learning, and hybrid learning are really going to be the things that we're planning for and the solutions that we're deriving for the upcoming year. If you think about kind of this overall challenge of building and collaborating and adapting, there are some underlying needs that come with that. And so we're focusing on these needs to make sure that students can thrive and teachers can thrive in this new environment. That's why Lenovo developed this distance learning offering. And there's a portfolio of offerings called our distance learning solution that allows students to be kept safe, to teachers to do remote class management, and then instructional resources for teachers to deliver to students. So let's take the first one, cybersecurity and student safety. Some of you may not know that students, teachers, the education segment is actually one of the highest attacked areas in cyber attacks. And cybersecurity among education is really important, especially as students are outside of the walls of their school. So if you think about a traditional school setting, the students are in that school, and the router, all of the traffic to that school is filtered out by the internet controls at the school level. But once students are home and they're outside of the school environment, they need additional tools to protect them and to keep them safe and to keep them within the control of the education system. So we've developed partnerships around cybersecurity and student safety that, number one, prevent these attacks from cyber attacks. Number two, it's like a next-gen antivirus. So it's blocking these attacks from coming into the students. It's giving reports out of who's impacted, where the threats are coming from, and allows schools to react to that. Secondly, it's providing filtering. So students' content is filtered before it comes onto the student devices, meaning that they're less likely to get access, to click on a bad link or be taken into a bad area of the internet. If we think beyond kind of cybersecurity and safety, it really starts to become around classroom management. How do you deliver a classroom experience to those students? And we have some tools, both Lenovo tools. We have a Land School offering that's a Lenovo tool. We also have partnerships that allow us to create a collaborative environment. Let's take Microsoft Teams, for example. Microsoft Teams is a classroom environment online. It allows teachers to share content with students, and that could be in the form of a document that students need to read. It could be in a Word document or some kind of other file that students collaborate on. Since all of the students in that class are in the same shared space, those students can collaborate with their peers. They can work on those assignments together. They can upload their own creative files. The teacher can see all of that. So they can grade those files. They can give feedback to the students. And the great thing about Microsoft Teams is that not only do you have that platform, but you can do a video call. You can have all of your class meetings. You can have team meetings. You can have individual group meetings with students in that kind of same environment. So that's a great tool. The other area is really instructional resources. So you got cybersecurity, you've got remote class management, and now you have instructional resources. And we've actually created some specific tools that are being used in India to deliver STEM content that was originally developed in VR to be available on your web browser. And a partnership with a company called Creative, which is based in India, has been a great way to deliver STEM content into the hands of students. The idea is that in VR, you can really create an engaging, immersive environment to help students understand difficult topics. One of those difficult topics could be the aurora borealis, which we've learned about is these amazing light shows that happen in the atmosphere. Now, what's causing that? In a VR experience, and I've done this, you're in space, you're watching all this energy flow from the sun and come down into the Earth's atmosphere. And you're getting quizzed through formative assessments on what is happening. Multiple choice. Hey, Rich, what is happening during this point? And you select in. If you get it wrong, you get a chance to answer again, but it's recording those answers so that the teacher at the end of that segment has a report of how you did, what you understood, or what needs to be retaught. Now with that partnership, we're able to deliver that same VR experience over the web. So students have access to a web browser, can just click on a tab, go to the experience that they need to have for their class lesson, go through that experience and take those formative assessments, and the teacher will get a report on how the students fared during that process. We also have access to creativity tools where students can create their own content upload those back into the classroom collaborative tools that they're using. So if we think about all of this put together, hybrid classrooms, remote classrooms, traditional teaching and learning, we want to have solutions that are valuable and important for schools across all of it. You don't want to have a separate learning tool for students that are learning remotely than students that are in a classroom setting. So what we're doing is we're bringing solutions to you that are unified. You can use the exact same tools in the classroom setting as you can learn remotely or use remotely. And that way teachers have the ability to just get trained once on those tools, and they can use them whether in a traditional setting or a hybrid or a virtual setting. And that is Smarter Way Forward. And that is what Lenovo is bringing to you as part of this Smarter India campaign for improving your education, adapting to the current crisis in the market, and really allowing our students and teachers to thrive. So thank you for your time today, and enjoy the rest of the broadcast.
Now, while technology is empowering educators and parents and equipping them with the right tools to help students transition to this new age online learning methods, it's also helping them enhance and supplement traditional classrooms. But to understand better in terms of how institutes are adapting to these changes and tackling some of its emerging challenges, we are now joined by Colonel Gopal Karnakaran, CEO Shivnada School, to highlight how the school has transitioned to hybrid classrooms in this new normal and how tech is enabling smart education for a smarter India.
A warm welcome to everyone here on the Smarter India Summit. We're also actually debating the impact of COVID on school and school education, and how technology sort of assisted schools in coping with this absolutely unprecedented times and unprecedented situation. I think it's rather early to comment on how well schools are doing. We are a very vast country. We have 250 million children going to school in over 1 million schools, and those schools range from schools in very rural, remote areas to the big cities, to private, to public. So it's very early to say how well we are coping, but I would say that I'd like to draw on two theories I'm fairly fond of and very relevant, I think, in these times. First is what is known as a black swan event. It's ideally an event which is absolutely unexpected, and it changes the game radically. It completely transforms everything before the event and how it happens after. So I think in so many ways, COVID and its impact is definitely black swan for Indian education or for education of the world. And it was Vladimir Lenin who said about 100 years ago that there are some decades where nothing seemed to happen, and there are some weeks where decades happen. He was obviously referring to the Russian Revolution, but for education and for the space of education, I think these few months, these 4-5 months, have been these 4-5 months where decades have happened, and things that couldn't have happened in decades in the normal course are now transforming through technology and through the internet and through the way that's being delivered in terms of transforming education. So I think that is extremely relevant to keep at the back of our minds when we look at how the impact has been. The other thing is actually a similar vintage, a little older vintage theory called the social contract theory. And the social contract theory fundamentally says that between the individual and the larger society, there are rules which will ensure safety, which will ensure that you're productive in what you do and to live a full life. And those rules between, say, the school and the pupil have radically transformed now. And these are, again, very early days. We don't know how those transformations will happen, but technology is transforming that completely. But having kept these two things in mind, I think the other real huge issue and a huge issue of concern for schools is definitely going to be the aspect of cybersecurity. And that's something that I think the tech players and the tech giants really need to look at, because you've got children from the age group of 3 to age group of 17 accessing technology 10, 12 hours a day, and that is a huge concern. It needs huge protection, and that's something that I think will come into play in a very big way. At the Shiv Nadar schools, over the last 5 months, actually, we've done many radical, nimble, flexible steps to manage this sudden change. One, of course, that every teacher always had a laptop. That was a huge plus. But also bringing in a world-class learning management system like Veracross has really helped the teacher to be able to plan her lessons, to upload her lessons, for students to be able to view that. But that's also helped in the way we do assessments. I think in the area of assessments, there is huge change from the way we used to do it pre-COVID and the way we're going to do it post-COVID. Students actually get instant feedback, they're able to make corrections, the teachers are able to make corrections. So that's a huge, huge plus. The other thing which I think is going to happen over a period of quite a few months is what is called a hybrid classroom. At the Shiv Nadar University, we have now quickly in the last 3 months put up about 25 classrooms where there are 3 cameras looking at 3 angles, and a professor can come and take a class with a few students or with very few students. Many of them could be away at home or in their hostels, but they all have access to the class through 3 cameras, one looking at the professor, one looking at the whiteboard or the blackboard, and the third actually looking at the class. And that sort of classroom where anywhere in India you are able to access, and tomorrow the Shiv Nadar University class can go to a small town and therefore be the online resource for a degree program, is all something that is extremely possible to be done. And I think this hybrid classroom is going to further take many other forms and metamorphosize into many other things, which will be very valuable for a country as vast as India, where access is a huge issue, as I mentioned. I think what's really happening and what needs to be really looked at and debated for all of us, whether it's an individual school like us at the Shiv Nadar School, which we are grappling with issues of access, which is provided to us by the internet. So can you imagine what the world of education would have been without the internet, so which is just 15, 20 years old. So the internet is access. It of course comes with costs, it comes with affordability, but there are also aspects of pedagogy and the teacher who's delivering that. And that needs to change, and that is changing. And of course there is the aspect of the platform, which I think the technology giants and the tech companies, the people who make laptops like Lenovo or Microsoft or Google, they're all upping the game radically to be able to provide the platform for students and teachers to be connected. And not only is that access now being created, but I think it's also transforming the way we are engaging, and therefore there is a lot to be done for the teacher, the way she's engaging, the way she or he is conducting the class. I think that's another major issue which everybody has to look at, and I think the technology players are also doing remarkable work in the way they are changing their outlook and approach and helping the teacher deliver education. Education fundamentally is built around 3 things. It is the transformation of knowledge, the passing on of knowledge. It's also the passing on of skills. And it's also the much larger issue of what are the right attitudes which help a person live a full life and live a successful life. I think schools fairly erroneously seem to be judged only on knowledge and knowledge content and knowledge understanding, and they're assessed for knowledge. But schools, the brick and mortar schools, do a remarkable job in skilling. And skilling is not just vocational, but how is emotional skills developed? How are social skills developed? And a child who goes to a school, unknowing to the child, is actually developing social skills, is developing of course, physical skills by playing sport, by indulging in physical activity, and also a great deal of emotional skills, emotional skills to deal with yourself. And I think that is a larger aspect of the delivery of education, which is a challenge now. And I think that is an area that technology companies need to really look at. So I think in terms of the challenges for India is going to be particularly how do we deliver what we can't do with the brick and mortar school right now to the vast swath of this country, to the rural areas of this country, to people who can't probably afford a laptop and even probably internet access. So I think those are going to be the challenges which the governments and the policymakers need to look at, and probably the technology giants could step in and be able to help with the 250 odd million children who go to school in India, with more than a million schools which are there, and how are we going to look at that. But in terms of the road ahead, as I said, it's very early days to really talk about. But one thing is for sure, schools are transformed for life. There are going to be huge changes. We've also realized, even at the Shivnara schools, that assessments probably are a lot better. Some sort of student choice and is so much better now. They have access to technology and availability of resources from across the world, and that is fast-tracked in this coming era of these last 3-4 months. So that's a huge plus. But what will probably happen is what we see as hybrid classrooms, classrooms where there will be a fair mix of technology interventions which otherwise would have taken a few decades, which will now happen very rapidly. I think the next couple of years we'll see a lot of integration of technology-assisted education delivery in the classrooms, and that's what we actually look forward to. And it's for the policymakers, the schools themselves, the teachers themselves to reskill themselves, and of course all the technology players in the world to be able to help make this a smarter India and a smarter education delivery for the children and for the future of this country.
To keep up with the current times, institutions and schools require education-ready devices, more secure platforms, as well as compelling digital content to engage students under these rapidly transforming learning conditions. Lenovo is actually working towards building engaging learning environments through its purpose-built laptops and tablets, software, as well as content for education in immersive learning with virtual reality solutions. In this session, we have with us Rohit Mitta, Director, Service Sales from Lenovo India, to highlight how the company is providing teachers and students the tools to enable the future of learning. Listen in.
Hi everyone, my name is Rohit Mitta and I lead the Services and Solutions business at Lenovo India as the Director, Service Sales. I am truly excited to be a part of this special Smarter India event, and it has been great to hear perspectives from the various leaders who have come together to discuss the possible solutions for the inevitable changes we see in the education sector. Lenovo is known for its world-class hardware. In fact, in the last financial year, that is 1920, Lenovo ranked #1 in both PC and tablet categories in India. Over the last 36 months, we have been on a journey of a services-led transformation. That is, from being a product-led organization to a services and solution-led organization. Be more than just an IT vendor selling devices and hardware, and instead be seen as a solution provider capable of helping our customers address their most critical needs. With quality devices available at accessible price points and now a suite of education software and solutions, we are well placed to bridge the digital divide and get educational institutes started on this journey to adapt to the new normal. Our vision is smart technology for all. We believe that in our shared digital future, no one should be left behind. Now, for years, education institutes around the world have been pushing for one-on-one student-to-device programs, and for the right reasons that come to the table, which is engaging students in immersive and collaborative lessons, providing personalized learning opportunities, saving time over manual processes like printing and grading, or even something like new opportunities like virtual field trips. And the fifth one that I can say is teaching essential college or career technology skills. All of these benefits are even furthered when these devices can be used at home, when you're truly getting into the learning anytime, anywhere concept. There is no doubt that devices are a powerful tool for engaging students and extending learning. Before COVID-19, devices for education were nice to have. However, in the current environment of online and distance learning, they are essential. It is important for me to emphasize that simply providing devices to students, be it BYOD or devices by the institute, is only one step in a truly effective and well-managed distance learning program. There are other challenges that need to be overcome, like inventory, like ensuring students have safe access, like empowering teachers to integrate technology, or maintaining student data privacy and security, or complying with regulations, or being able to communicate with parents and guardians, or the sheer ability to collect data to ensure that the program is well managed, well monitored, and is continuously improving. Nobody really knows what's going to happen for the year 2020-2021, but it is fairly apparent that schools should be ready for some version of remote learning. With remote learning comes the need to manage the integration of technology in the classroom, or for me to rephrase, manage the integration of the device in the learning experience. The need to ensure safety of student, safety of device, safety of data, and still keep the total cost of ownership low will be few of the key parameters to keep in mind. From my view, the key ingredients of success can be classified under 5 headers. The first would be devices and access. The second would be data, and these two are fairly simple to understand. The other 3 would be safety. Students would need a safe place to learn, the ability to block inappropriate content, or the need to monitor activity of distress or report on safety and incidents to ensure there's complete protection. Fourth would be compliance to laws. Currently, we do not have laws around the usage of devices by children, but in some parts of the world, there are pretty stringent laws around children's usage of internet and data protection. And I believe, in times to come, in the given environment, India would also be, very soon be looking at laws. And finally, management of devices, apps, policies would be critical to success. Let me talk a little more about it. Management of inventory would also include the management of devices in a BYOD environment. With devices dispersed through schools or through homes, a central reporting system for devices is essential. Managing device inventory, location, time last seen, operating system, assigned user, and more are some of the important points to keep in mind. Managing of apps. For most modern devices, apps are the gateway to content and instructions. Ensuring simplified mass management of app licenses, self-service to approved apps, and over-the-air app delivery and revocations would be some of the key elements to factor. Managing access to protect data, ensure passcodes are in compliance with policies, as well as the ability to reset, lock, or even wipe lost or stolen devices over the air should be something that we all will need to factor. And then finally, managing policies. Different operating systems provide different native tools. Ensure devices remain secure, safe, and education focused by managing policies on what device features are in use, locked, or customizable. Finally, the distance learning environment isn't one size that fits all. Different grades, classes, and groups are best served by different instruction methods. With our smart classroom platform solution, we aim to meet these needs of distance learning, to provide a comprehensive reporting, ensure student safety, reports for teachers, reports for parents, filtering of inappropriate content, monitoring, management of access across operating systems, no matter where the devices are located and where the learning takes place. Our solution is aimed not just for remote students, but also for the remote IT staff with cloud-based management systems. And we also think we have the right ingredients for the other stakeholders. For example, school management. Ensuring the best-in-class education with a positive word of mouth. Parents, addressing key concerns like ensuring the right usage of the device in the hands of their children. Or even school IT departments, where we would be able to deliver easy to deploy and manageable tools while not compromising on student engagement, safety, or quality of education. Our Smart Classroom platform is a step towards Smarter India, a step in our journey from being a supplier of hardware to being a solution provider. Before I end, I thank you for your patience and attention today. At Lenovo, we are wholeheartedly committed to the cause of furthering education in these tough times. I am sure we will tide over these trying times soon. And till then, stay safe. Thank you.
Rohit, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing those insights with us. Now, from enabling last mile education to really understanding how teachers are adapting to the new normal and embracing transformational technology-enabled learning platforms, we have covered a lot of ground when it comes to new age education. But before I close, I want to welcome Professor Anil D. Sahasrabuddhe, Chairman AICTE, to share his insights on how technology is enabling uninterrupted education and making it more accessible by enabling learning outside the classroom. Listen in.
Thank you, CNBC 18, for this wonderful program called Smarter India, Thinking Beyond Classrooms. I think we are all used to learning in the classrooms from ages, and in particular in school education to college education and university education, we are all closeted in classes of either 40 minutes or 50 minutes or 1 hour. But the new education policy has opened up new vistas in terms of certain suggestions or changes which will really transform the way education is conducted in the future. And in a world where we are talking about smart India, where we are talking about digital India, where we are talking about smart cities, I think smart education is also going to be very, very significant, which is going to be driven by technology. And what is this technology and how is it enabling can be seen by the number of the courses that are available in various types of MOOCs, whether it is Coursera or edX or in indigenously developed Swayam portal, where huge number of courses are available in all domains. Then on the YouTube and various types of universities who have also put up their content onto the platform. A student has access to all of that. And therefore, learning can take place anywhere, anytime, on any device, from any place, from the best faculty in the world. And therefore, learning outside is becoming more and more common through the use of technology. Thinking beyond classrooms is what is the topic for today. And one of the very powerful mechanisms which AICTE and MHRD has evolved in the last 4 years is the conduct of Smart India Hackathons. We started off exactly in 2017. In the last 4 editions, we have had more than 500,000 students participating in this, giving out-of-the-box brilliant ideas for solving the problems, which were all derived from central government, government departments, state governments, some of the industries, both small and large, small, medium-scale industries, startups, even societal problems faced by the educational institutions. All of them were collated and then given a challenge for students, and students really came with wonderful solutions. They were shortlisted, and we conducted 3 hackathons in a real physical face-to-face mode in a 36-hour-long module. And this year we had to do it everything online. 10,000 students connected with 40 virtual rooms, large number of mentors, large number of evaluators or the jury. They all were connected to those 40 rooms, and more than 3 days, they were all engaged with each other. I think the power of technology was visible there. And therefore, learning can happen very, very effectively even outside. And it is not just for students. In fact, we have also experimented in terms of faculty development programs, which we used to conduct in the face-to-face mode earlier. We have migrated to now online mode, and all of these are conducted in online mode. And the very effectiveness of that was visible in terms of numbers, in terms of efficiency. And therefore, the power of technology being used on one side, and then the new areas, emerging areas like AI, IoT, machine learning, deep learning, robotics, 3D printing, cloud computing, quantum computing, cyber security, data analytics, blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality. All these are very, very exciting topics which are going to create the future jobs. And for training students and faculty, closing them inside the classroom is not going to be possible. They have huge applications, and therefore students have to learn theory, then experiment them outside, and then learning outside the classroom, peer-to-peer learning, using technology, connecting with each other. I think that is the way forward. We will be able to make use of the talent of our younger generation, which is what we call demographic dividend, most effectively in terms of their creativity being unleashed and innovation being unleashed. The products and processes tomorrow will be much better than what we people with gray hair will be able to produce. But we will have to give that opportunity. And therefore, my appeal and request is each one of those universities who have got this freedom, who have got this autonomy, should experiment in various ways, and their best practices should be shared with each other. Thereby, the new generation will become not only Atmanirbhar for themselves, for their families, for their society, the state, but the entire nation, and provide processes and products which are going to be useful for the entire world.
At Lenovo, our vision is smarter technology for all. And what India needs is quality education for all. And we feel that technology can play a huge role in this. I hope you found today's discussion a little thought-provoking. I hope you got some insights, some new ideas, and I'm hoping that it will motivate and inspire you to play whatever little role you can play in this massive drive. Lenovo is truly committed to it, and I'm hoping that we will be able to carry the torch forward and keep the fire burning on this very vital subject for India. Thank you.
On that note, we've come to a close of this virtual summit. Hope you enjoyed this event as much as we did putting it together for you. Thank you so much for being a part of Lenovo Smarter India, thinking beyond the classroom today. We look forward to hosting you very soon. Till then, goodbye and many thanks for watching.
Lenovo presents Smarter India, thinking beyond the classroom, in association with CNBC TV 18.